Right, so if we look at these, I also wanted to be able to feed back to the 3 people who'd done this, whether or not the students would find it useful. If you look at the 3 of them, they were asked to rate them from 1 is very unhelpful or distracting, and 5 is very helpful. There was also an option for I didn't attend this, because I didn't want people to be saying it was something when they hadn't been there. So, yes, very unhelpful or distracting. What I want to know is the advice just a bit confusing? Is it getting in the way of actually doing the thing? If you look at the results, there are quite a positive leaning in all of them. Less so in the presentations than the other 2. I think that they've done quite a lot of giving presentations by this point, so I hope that's why. I don't think it was anything inherent in the session necessarily. But yeah, there seems to be a fairly positive outcome from each of those, and as I say, particularly finding and using references is something that, as a competence, has dramatically increased. So that's very good to see. I'm pleased that those were useful. Question 14 is, how many of the modules have you taken so far have included an element of transferable skills training? Now, what I'm getting at here is there is some suggestion in the literature that if you just have a single standalone skills module, it seems like a bolted on extra thing that nobody's very serious about you doing, but it's kind of you're obliged to do it and one thing or another. Whereas if it's embedded across the curriculum, then the students are going to take it more seriously. That also has an effect on how you teach it, because if you know that they've done a lot of giving presentations, say, then you perhaps need to put less emphasis on that because they've already had some experience of it elsewhere. So when I look at this question, most people said some, quite a few said just this one. Some said most, and one person said all modules have this, but they're all taking the same or very similar modules, so it's strange to get a mix. But anyway, most get just this one or some modules. Now I know that some of their modules include giving presentations and writing a report, and some of the aspects that are in this module, I don't know how many of them include actual training on this and how many of them are just asking them to do it, to demonstrate a skill. So this is interesting, but it looks like this is a fairly standalone module, which is a shame, potentially. Right, questions 15 and 16 need to be taken in tandem. How much do you agree with the following statements? There are 2 statements. The first statement is, a mathematics graduate should have transferable skills. Yes, appears to be the answer. Lots of 4s, lots of 5s. Nobody put unsure, disagree, or strongly disagree. Everybody either agreed or strongly agreed with that statement. A mathematics graduate should have transferable skills. Now this is good because this is something that I tried to get across in in the first session I talked to them. I told them about employability and how much effect it has on the skills, how much the skills affects the employability, what companies are looking for, etc., etc. So that's really good. The second part of this, question 16, a mathematics student should be taught transferable skills as part of their degree for credit. There was a much greater spread of answers for this question. So there were people now who put disagree or strongly disagree, only 1 student in each. Quite a lot put unsure. And still, the overwhelming lean of the graph is towards the positive, which is nice, but it is not as resounding as the previous question. So yes, you should have transferable skills. Should they be taught as part of your degree? Oh, not sure. Less sure. Some of them think yes, some of them think less sure. So that's interesting, because again this comes down to there was a survey that I read that I referenced in one of the essays that said that generally staff and students quite often will question why they need to do skills training, why this should be part of a degree. I know I've heard this said that some lecturers think this is not something that's worth spending a BSc in mathematics credit on, teaching the students transferable skills, because it's devaluing the degree, it's watering down the subject, etc., etc. Now this is a shame, because I think this is something that they do need to know. I think it's something that will be valuable to them later in life, but there's not complete agreement on that subject, even within the students that I was teaching, so that's interesting. But not many people actively disagreed with it, just a lot of them were not quite sure. Right, so what have I learned as a result of doing this piece of feedback? Well, I've learned you can't state the learning outcomes often enough, or the purpose for doing a piece of work. I've learned that art gallery problems are a topic that don't require prerequisite knowledge and are not too difficult, but they're not liked by everybody. I've learned that teamwork is fun and effective if you're in the right group. I've learned that the writing an initial plan and taking minutes is a useful way of organising team management, and that's brilliant news because I hoped that it would be, but it's not completely effective in ensuring that everybody makes an equal contribution. And if you look at the raw data in the Excel chart, there's the other column, the additional comments column, question 17, and one of the students there has suggested that it is difficult to talk about unequal contribution when the person who is making an unequal contribution is a friend. So I think that's an interesting aspect for that, and just that I think I don't know enough about how to get a group of students together, how to organise which students go into which groups, because they might all be friends. It's quite a small cohort. They might well know each other all right. If they were working in a company, they might be working with people who they were friends with. So it's difficult to say nobody should be with anyone that they know. Some groups didn't get along, obviously, from sort of my experience of seeing them interact, and also the comments back on the form, and that not each group felt that they worked well together or that they supported one another or whatever it is. On skills, the skills sessions were useful. Again, that's really good to hear. On competencies, the strongest effect on competencies was on referencing, report writing and giving presentations, and those were the 3 skills sessions. Now that's, I think, very interesting. Now I covered teamwork and time management in the first session, and assumptions in a mathematical argument and language, expressing a problem in mathematical language, I covered in the second session, and the slides from those are here in the portfolio, but the students didn't seem to have had such a positive effect on those aspects, didn't perceive such a positive effect on those aspects. So there's an issue of whether, because I've just asked them how useful I've asked them in the same document how useful the skill sessions were, did that have an effect? There's also an issue of does it need improving? Does the provision I made for those aspects need improving, and or making more explicit how I'm going to teach you about this thing? I've learned that skills training is not embedded across the curriculum, which is a shame. And I've learned that mathematicians should have transferable skills, but they should not necessarily be taught them, which is interesting. I think if I'm going to teach this again, this module again, art gallery problems I still think are a useful project. I think they're a good topic to use. I think they're a fairly straightforward, non-taxing piece of mathematics that can allow the students to really get into the skills stuff. They won't all like the skills stuff. Unfortunately, those are the learning outcomes. That's what they're being asked to learn. Some of the skills training could be improved. I think I could put more work into those first 2 sessions where we're trying to get across the skills training. I could even do more than 2 sessions. I don't want to take too much time away from their independent working time, but we'll see. And I need to know more about how groups are formed and how to arrange the students into groups, because I don't think I think some of the problems may have come from group members, but then it's difficult to arrange that. I think I don't know enough about that. I haven't discovered enough of a handle about that. So that's an area to look into where I'm going to teach a similar project again.